Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Income is the Outcome, where we believe it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined by Tim Whistler, who is the founder and president of the Whistler Agency. We're so glad you're joining us today, and here's the question we want to kick off today's show with. Have you ever wondered how you might be able to lower your tax liability and do some good in the world at the same time? Well, you're in for a treat. That's what we're going to be unpacking today as we discuss different charitable giving strategies available to you to help you accomplish both of those goals. Tim, my friend, so good to be here with you this week. How are you?
I'm great, Kristen. It's always great to be back in the studio with you again this week as well.
Well, thank you. Well, I really appreciate it. We were talking before the show, and you asked me a very honest question. You're like, do I overthink things? And I said, Tim, I appreciate that you think through things with a level of detail and passion and commitment, because really what this show is about is helping change lives for the better, and that's our intention each and every week. So it's such a joy to get to do this with you.
Well, thank you for your kind answer. I appreciate that, because as people who know me, they can attest. Yeah, he tends to overthink things just a little bit every now and then. But if it's for the good of helping people, then by all means, we'll keep doing that.
Exactly. It's a good quality. It just needs to be channeled in the right way, right? I can relate to that as well. Probably why we hit it. One of the reasons why we hit off so well.
I think so. I agree. That's right.
All right. So we're talking today about accomplishing two things: being able to lower your tax liability and do some good in the world at the same time. So today's show is all dedicated to charitable giving strategies. And the reason I think it's so important to have a conversation, an entire show dedicated to it, is there's so many strategies out there that a lot of folks aren't even aware of.
Right. That's exactly right. From the standpoint of, again, when we have assets that maybe not really be needed for income, we have options available to us now. And that's kind of what we look at is whenever we sit down with folks and we provide that complimentary written financial plan, and I start asking questions, okay, where's the income going to come from? How much income do we need?
Right.
How are we going to spend it, right? Because you're going to fund your retirement through three different phases: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So then if we have the income plan set up, but maybe we have assets that not really are needed for income, but they're taxable, what can we do with those? So that's why I'm excited about today's show and what we're going to share with folks.
Yes, for sure. So right out the gate, we want to talk about a charitable giving strategy that a lot of folks aren't aware of or maybe aren't utilizing to their benefit. That is something known as a QCD. Now, talk us through what is a QCD and what do our folks need to understand about it?
So as we know, we live in a world of acronyms, right?
Yes.
So a QCD is what they call a qualified charitable distribution. So at a high level, it's basically a tax-free donation from your traditional IRA right to a charitable entity, and we're eligible to execute a QCD as long as we are 70 and a half or older.
Yeah. So again, who came up with these rules, right? But age 70 and a half is when you can first do something known as the QCD. So how does a QCD actually work? And the most important part of this is, how does it then lower someone's tax liability?
So, when you look at the element of what it can do, the qualified charitable distribution is not taxed, and it's not included in your taxable income. That's a big deal, right? Because it comes out of that forever taxed bucket known as your traditional IRA. Right? So when we get to 70 and a half, not quite maybe yet to RMD age, we're eligible to do that, because then also too, you can deduct whenever you take that QCD and you send those dollars directly to that charitable entity. That's not a taxable event. Right? And now we can't deduct the QCD from your taxes, so we don't get to, the
double
benefit
dip
of both.
that way.
Right? We can't do that. But if certain conditions are met, a QCD is really a good strategy, especially when we get to RMD age, if we don't need that income from the IRA accounts.
Okay, so let's pause there, because again, acronyms in case folks aren't familiar. So we're talking about QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, but you just stated that it can count towards your RMD, which is your required minimum distribution. So explain how that works.
So the RMD, the required minimum distribution, as we know, is based upon our age, right? So again, when the Secure Act 2.0 was passed not too long ago, they changed a couple of different details. Number one, they changed the ages. So if you were born between 1951 through 1959, your required minimum distribution age is 73. If you're born in 1960 or later, it's not until 75. So what we're talking about is when you get to that age where you are required to distribute at least a minimum dollar every year. For folks who are like, I really don't need this money, Kristen. What do I do with this? What can the QCD might not be a bad thing to consider because it can lower our overall tax liability.
Right, and it's a win-win not just for yourself because it lowers your tax liability, but the charity now gets the full amount of the donation.
That's exactly right. It's literally a win-win. It lowers your tax liability, and you bless somebody else with the fruits of your labor, really.
Right, which is so awesome. I'm curious, how have you seen this strategy of folks using QCDs to count for their RMDs? How have you seen this play out and be beneficial for clients that you work with?
So again, once we have that written financial plan and we now start talking about strategy, right? We're talking about taking income. And folks, again, I can't stress this enough. When you have that complimentary written financial plan, you have a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy that comes along with that plan. So once we've unpacked the details that you need to create the income you want to have for that retirement lifestyle, then we can go a little bit deeper into the conversation to say, okay, well, when RMDs kick in, or should we maybe do some planning before RMDs kick in? That's another key thing. Do some planning ahead of time. If we come to the realization that, you know what, we really don't need to take income from the IRA, but we're going to have to pay taxes on that IRA. So where we've kind of seen this being a very beneficial for folks is if we've got an RMD and we really don't need that for income, we can start planning ahead of time, right? And then let's fast forward now for folks who have an RMD, they don't need it for income. It's a wonderful conversation when we can, again, take that, go through that process of a QCD, taking the dollars directly from the IRA, directly to the qualified charitable entity, and getting a tax break on that. And I think it does something, folks, internally, where they're blessing another entity who could really use those dollars.
Right.
But it doesn't cost the IRA owner any taxes to do so.
Yes, yeah.
What a great place to be.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I know you do this for folks routinely, right?
We do. Yeah, this is a conversation that comes up. Again, for certain folks, it doesn't apply. But for folks who maybe have that portfolio, or we'll talk about that later in today's show, when they inherited IRA. This is a way, again, in which we want to be very strategic in how we leverage these assets, whether they're assets that we built or it's the assets that we inherit. If there is an IRS attached to that account, we have ways in which to maybe lower that tax liability if it's a good fit, if we don't need income from that account.
For sure. Well, clearly there's a lot to know, and I know we have a lot more to get to on today's show, but if someone's watching and going, yes, I would like to learn more, I want to figure out how I could apply some of these charitable giving strategies in my own life, what would be your encouragement to them?
You know, the first thing to do is pick up the phone or scan the QR code and get on our calendar. Let's just have the discovery conversation, the get acquainted conversation. You get to know me, I get to know you, just to find out whether or not I'm even potentially qualified to serve you as a retirement income planner. But once we go through that strategy, that conversation, now we can unpack the details. And once we get to that portion of that conversation, now we can dictate, number one, how do we create the most tax-efficient stream of income? But number two, how do we leverage those assets in a balanced portfolio, not just for our lifestyle, but maybe for the legacy we want to leave behind?
Wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. I know it's going to be exciting to continue to dive into this throughout today's show. But if this is resonating with you, or if you're already working with another financial professional and this is new information to you and they're not having these kinds of conversations with you, this is why it would be a great opportunity for you to call and come in and receive this complimentary written financial plan and get a second opinion to see how these strategies could potentially work for you. That number to call to schedule yours is 888-992-7829. Or if you'd rather connect online, you can simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Writing a book was an idea that I came up with several years ago, but I never really engaged in the idea because I thought, you know, it's too big of a task. Until about late 2022, I found the publisher that I thought would possibly be a good fit, and it has been. I'm really excited to introduce my book, which is entitled License to Spend, a retirement plan based upon income as opposed to IFCOME. What I really wanted to do with the book was simply just try to connect with folks to meet them where they're at. You know, they're about to embark upon a journey they've never encountered before. They're uncertain, it's a little bit overwhelming. So I thought, you know, if I could put together just kind of a personalized book, just to hopefully maybe make that connection with somebody so that they maybe feel like we won't really have to do this by ourselves. We can engage with somebody who's already helped other people just like us, you know, embark upon that journey, and just try to put it together in kind of an easy to read format, connect with them on their thoughts, their concerns, and just try to provide that resource that can kind of help address those ideas and share with them what kind of they can expect whenever they come in and talk to us about that retirement income plan that they would like to have. With every conversation I have with folks, whether it's the first time we've met, whether it's the second time we've talked through the plan, or if we're going through our 10th annual review together, my hope is to be able just to provide some type of information and knowledge maybe they weren't aware of before. I hope to be able to create that takeaway where they're like, wow, I didn't really know that, but that makes sense. The publisher, when we were putting together the thoughts and putting together the plan on how we were going to extrapolate all these thoughts and ideas into this book, he said, one of the most important parts of the book is going to be getting, testimonials from some of your clients. And, I'd never asked my clients those questions before. I didn't really have any idea. I just knew that they liked the plan. We put the plan together and we review the plan on a regular basis. And man, when you get those testimonials back from people and you can see the impact that it had on their lives, it was unbelievable. And in fact, that's my favorite part of the book. It's incredibly powerful.
Welcome back. You're watching Income is the Outcome. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Tim Whistler, and we're so glad that you're joining us today for this important conversation. Before the break, we were talking about QCDs, using these qualified charitable distributions to count towards your required minimum distributions and how this has a win-win effect for you, meaning it can help lower your tax liability and the charity of your choosing can get the full amount. Tim, I think we're going to continue to explain how these all work, but from a tax perspective, let's start with that. Why is having a QCD potentially count towards your RMD so extremely beneficial?
In all the different shows that we have done, we've always continued to drive home the point of what a tax trap looks like. Mm-hmm. Well, we find out in retirement because all those years that you built a tax-deferred account, now the government says you are required to take the minimum distribution at certain ages, again, if you're not already taking income anyway. Mm-hmm. But the point of it is, as we know, when you start taking RMDs, that's a taxable event. You're required to take a required minimum distribution from a tax-deferred account. Therefore, that's taxable. So what else do you have going on at the same time? Well, you've got Social Security probably that's coming in, and up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxed, so therefore there's more tax burden on that. Maybe we have a pension coming in, right? So the RMD really disrupts everything. We took advantage of decades of tax-deferred benefits, and now we pay for them.
Yep.
So unfortunately, the QCD may be a good fit because unfortunately we have that tax liability on those dollars that will forever be taxed as long as they reside in that bucket.
For sure. And awareness is the first step, which is why you've created this valuable free resource that our viewers can even use right now to see what your estimated tax bill might be throughout the rest of your life unless you take action. So we're going to go ahead and put this site for you up here, retirementtaxreview.com. You can also access it by clicking that QR code. Tim, explain to our viewers what they're going to receive when they visit this site and why having this information is going to be so helpful.
It's very, very simple. They get to dictate all the different details. So you simply just provide your name, your email address, phone number, your age, and then you want to input the dollar amount of your current 401k or traditional IRA account values. Once you insert those into there and then you answer one more question about, how did you hear about us, you click submit and be prepared because what we'll show next on the screen will show you what we call the government's plan and what potentially could be your plan. And then the detailed report will be emailed to you. And that's where we establish a good baseline to say, look, all those years that you defer, it's astounding what that tax bill will look like. Not just for you in retirement, but if you leave dollars behind, what your kids, your grandkids might have to pay for in taxes as well.
Yes.
So take advantage. It's a free resource. There's no obligation. Nobody's going to hound you. It provides you with that detailed report, and we can use that summarized report maybe as the foundation for our next conversation.
Yes, and I know that you have said a lot of times folks have logged on, they've been really shocked. They've also done it multiple times because there's some areas that you can play around with and adjust. You can, adjust your assumed tax liability. You can change the assumed growth rate on that tax-deferred bucket of money. It's really helpful to kind of play around with it and see. But the bottom line and the consensus we've heard from folks who are using this is 1, thank you for showing me. 2, this is so helpful. And 3, help, right? I don't want to settle for the government's tax plan for me. And there are strategies, and that's why we're dedicating today's show to talk about specifically charitable giving strategies. But there's other things that folks can do to help lower their tax liability accountability as well.
That's right. And I think, like you said, and when you teed this up, it all starts with let's understand what that tax liability looks like to create some urgency and to take action to say, okay, now we're aware. Now the second step is to take action.
Exactly.
And that's what we're here to do today.
For sure. So diving back in specifically here to QCDs, right? We have all these tongue twisters today. Qualified Charitable Distributions. What is the maximum amount that someone can use this year with a QCD?
So it depends upon how we file our taxes. If we're single, up to $108,000 can be used as a QCD, or for a couple, we can contribute, or I should say QCD, $216,000.
And that's per year, right?
That's per year, right. And now we'll keep an eye on that because, again, it can change from one year to the next.
For sure.
But those numbers are here for 2025. Now, on that point, something we don't want to miss the detail of. If you have a 401k, a 403b, or maybe a 457, as you know, you have required minimum distribution requirements on those accounts as well. We've talked about that. However, you cannot fulfill an RMD with a QCD from those employer-sponsored plans. Folks, don't miss that. That's why we talk all the time. It's okay to ask somebody for some help when you go through some fine-tooth details, like what we're talking about right here, because you don't want to mess something up and cause more issues, more taxes, possibly penalties involved.
Exactly.
So just understand that this is the amount we can contribute up to, or QCD, this is the maximum, but also to understand what vehicles can we use for the QCD.
Very well stated, and I think that this also makes a strong case. We've done other shows where we've shared the staggering data of how many times folks leave behind employer-sponsored plans at previous places of employment. This is a great case for why you want to consolidate potentially into a traditional IRA, and of course you want to utilize Tim and his expertise to do it correctly so you don't trigger a negative taxable event. But moving that money from those employer-sponsored plans into something like a traditional IRA, well, now you have options like QCDs that you did not have available had you just left that money behind.
Very well said. You go, like you said before, we go from that limited menu of options to now to the world, the full buffet of what you want to do. And with that rollover also comes, it really simplifies the process. Because again, that's why we're a part of that elite IRA advisory group, because we're on top of this. I attend 2 workshops every year. Right? Then after every workshop, after we go through about a 250-page manual over a day and a half of nothing but IRA stuff, right? I enjoy it. Some people find that very, very troubling that I would enjoy it that much. But the point of it is it's very empowering because we come back from that and now we can take that information and say, okay, we know there's going to be market cycles. We know there's going to be legislative risk. Let's make sure that our overall portfolio is aligned with what you want to do, and how can we withdraw the most tax-efficient income from those assets.
I love that you geek out over this, and I say that in the best way possible because you can only serve people as well as what you know, right? And there is so much to know, and the fact that you take that training, and I know how rigorous it is and how committed you have to be to do that. It's in your client's best interest that he geeks out over this. So that's a good thing for everybody involved, right?
Thank you.
Well, okay, so we want to provide a balanced discussion always on this show.
Yes.
So let's run through, obviously a QCD doesn't apply to everyone, but it can be a very helpful tool for a lot of people. But let's discuss some of the pros and the cons. Let's kick it off with the pros.
Absolutely. So again, just making sure we don't miss anything, right? We've talked about this before. It could reduce your overall taxable income, right? Because you can take those dollars that you're required to take out of your IRA account, send them directly to, that's the key phrase, directly to the qualified charity, right? That's not a taxable event. Again, a lot of people are like, you know what, I don't want to take my RMD, so I'm not going to, right? Well, that's fine. You don't have to, but if they find out, not only will you still have to go back and fulfill that RMD by paying taxes on that withdrawal, then you'll also be assessed a penalty. So the pro of exploring a QCD option is that that's off the table. We can fulfill the RMD by sending those dollars directly on, and that way then you avoid the potential of paying a 25% penalty for a missed RMD, right? That's another benefit. Another one, again, is you don't have to itemize your deductions on your tax return to deduct a QCD. Because I know a lot of us are thinking, okay, this is great, but what type of paperwork am I going to
Right, the nightmare that could be involved, right?
Can TurboTax help me, Kristen?
Yes. Right.
We don't have to worry about that. So that's another big benefit of that as well.
For sure. Okay, so those are a lot of the pros. What are some potential cons of using a QCD?
So again, the donation has to go to a qualified charity. Okay, now we can't use that definition of our own accord, right? We don't want to create, like, I'm a Seinfeld fan. When George created the Human Fund, you can't do that, right? You can't send dollars to the Human Fund and get a tax deduction for that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No, it has to be a 501c3 organization. Okay? Now also too, you have to be careful because some people like to send dollars to private foundations. Okay, you have to understand, you can still do that. But sending dollars to a private foundation is not a qualified charity according to the IRS. So if you think in terms of, if I want to send dollars on, you need to understand, number one, that the entity is eligible to be a QCD. It has to be a 501c3. And also too, don't miss this, folks. We're going to talk about this in a second, but at a high level, the donation must go directly to the charity from your IRA, right? It has to be set up that way. So we walk our clients through that process to make sure we don't mess that up at all.
For sure. Nothing's worse if someone withdraws the money into their own account and then tries to do it because it's not going to work, because the IRS is going to see that as income, and then that's null and void, right?
QCD's done.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of pitfalls that you want to avoid. Now, I know that a QCD is not subject to withholding on your federal income tax return, but I have heard that certain states have different rules. So I know most of our viewers are residing here in Illinois. Is there anything specific to Illinois that they need to know about this?
No, thankfully we're good. Illinois does not allow a deduction or credit for charitable contributions on state tax returns. So we're okay there. But again, it fulfills the RMDs that offer valuable federal advantages. So again, if you're watching the show and maybe you're watching it through our website, maybe you reside in a different state, because again, we do have clients, I'm blessed to share, we've got clients in 8 different states. So again, if we're talking through this and we've not had the conversation about how a QCD may be beneficial to you, make sure that we explore your state laws as well before we execute the QCD.
Awesome. So much to know, and I love that you stay on top of all this. What do you want to leave our viewers with as we close out this segment?
I think what we really want to do, again, is we can't stress this enough. This is all about the conversation. That written financial plan at a high level will answer that first question, are we going to be okay in retirement? And that's what that roadmap can provide it. I love to answer that question right off the bat. Based upon our assets, our expenses, our income, that will fulfill that question. And if maybe things aren't looking good right now, we've got plenty of time to address it before we get to retirement. But once we've answered that question, now we can go deeper into the report. Now we can understand, how do we leverage the assets? How do we pass on legacy dollars in the most efficient manner and leave more for our family than to the IRS? What if we want to execute a QCD? What does that look like? Folks, that's what you get when you sit down with us and start the conversation for you to walk out with your own complimentary written financial plan.
Wonderful, Tim. Thank you so much. That number to call to claim your complimentary written financial plan is 888-992-7829. Or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
The right Social Security filing strategy can significantly impact your retirement income. The difference between different claiming strategies can have long-term financial implications. Your decision should be based upon your personal financial situation, longevity expectations, and income needs rather than just delaying benefits. The Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015 made significant changes to Social Security filing rules, including the elimination of strategies like file and suspend. Many retirees may not be fully aware of how these changes could affect their benefits. If you haven't reviewed your Social Security strategy recently, now may be a good time to do so. A customized Social Security analysis can help you understand how to optimize your benefits based on your individual circumstances. Did you ever think your own retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are in partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own number while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability might be, scan the QR code or go to retirementtaxreview.com.
Welcome back to Income is the Outcome, where today we've been discussing various charitable strategies that you can use to not only potentially lower your tax liability throughout retirement, but also help you do a lot of good in this world. It's a win-win combination. And if you're just tuning in and joining us, make sure you don't miss taking advantage of using this free resource, the Retirement Tax Bill Calculator. Now, you can access it in one of two ways. You can visit retirementtaxreview.com or by clicking that QR code. Again, such valuable information, Tim, for folks to understand where they're starting from and why enacting some of these strategies could really be in their benefit.
It truly does, because it is eye-opening, and that's the response we get a lot of times from people. So take advantage of that calculator. We created it for you. It does us no good, but we want to help you understand what does the tax liability look like from the income that'll come from the taxable accounts.
For sure. Well, I know we only have a couple minutes left. One of the important questions to address is the timing of enacting QCDs. I know you do this for your clients on an annual basis. Is there a certain time of year that's better than another?
You know, if we come into a new calendar year with the mindset that we're going to execute a QCD this year, let's do it early. The reason why we say that is because according to the IRS, the first dollars out of the IRA are assumed to satisfy the RMD. So what we mean by that is, so for example, let's say your RMD is $10,000 and you want to take $5,000 in cash in February, right? Basically, they could then send maybe the remaining $5,000 to the church as possibly a QCD. But we got to be very careful, because again, the IRS says the first dollars out of an IRA count towards an RMD. So therefore, if we're gonna have the mindset of doing a QCD, let's not wait till Christmas Eve. Don't give it to the church at Christmas time. Let's do it early on in the year, because if we take out some other distributions prior to it, it may disqualify us from using the QCD as an RMD.
Very important to know.
Timing is very critical, yes.
Yeah, and if you leave it to the last minute too, there's no guarantee it's going to go through in time with the paperwork and all that, right?
Right.
So.
Once October gets here, folks, let's make sure, let's not wait and start doing things then, because we got holidays, people are taking vacations.
For sure.
Let's be proactive on the planning process. Let's use Q1 as that target date if we could.
For sure. Well, I know you had a quick story you wanted to wrap up today's show with. Go for it.
So just real quickly, one of my clients just came in, we started talking about QCDs, and I said, you know, when you're giving your tithes and offerings to your church, I said, how are you doing that right now? Well, we're just using our RMDs, paying the taxes and sending it in. I said, you can still bless your church, fulfill yourself as a good steward of the money that the Lord blessed you with, but provide those dollars at a tax break for you, and it's tax-free to the church. Let's talk through that strategy. And he goes, well, that's a no-brainer. So again, it's just another way of where we can really leverage the assets that we were blessed to receive and create a tax-efficient manner in which to maybe send those funds on to, again, a qualified charitable entity.
Right. Well, I know a lot of folks are going to want to connect with you to figure out how this would apply to their situation. What do you want to leave them with today?
Let's have the conversation. Let's sit down, scan the QR code, pick up the phone. One of our members of our team will get you on our calendar. Let's have the conversation and create that complimentary written financial plan for your retirement.
Wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to claim yours is 888-992-7829. Or again, you're welcome to click that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Income is the Outcome.